Hello, I'm really giddy. Before we get started today, I have some exciting news I'm so happy to share. Starting today, my coaching is now available to the public. For years, I supported people through my coaching through client referrals. And so I started posting online because I wanted to open that up and share with more people, share with the public. And so, whether you're looking to get a quick shot of clarity about something that you're navigating, trying to move through, or trying to heal, and you want some good awareness about what direction to take, or if you're ready for a deeper dive, a transformative dive, I've got something that's got you covered. So, if you look in the link in the description, I share my calendar, and there you'll see the different containers that I offer based on what your needs are. And if it piques your curiosity, book a call. Let's talk about it. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Do you know the most underrated tool that can be used to benefit our well being, our relationships, and our ability to manifest and create the things we want in life? A tool that looks like air but hits like stone? I'm talking about your emotions. And we can't see emotions, but they control so much of our lives, even when we don't think that they are. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The very practical side of emotions and how you can use them to see the changes that you want to see in your life. But first, my name is Erna. I'm a transformation coach, and I'm currently experiencing my own transformation. I provide my clients with a roadmap, a step-by-step process where they can become their own healer. Because if you can be in the driver's seat of your own healing journey, your entire life will change. I've been studying manifestation and healing and inner work specifically for over 20 years. I know this path. I've walked this path. And now I'm sharing what I know with people who don't want to do 20 years worth of guesswork. So let's dive in. So emotions are terribly underrated. They are never beating the looks like nothing allegations. But that's why I talk about them so much, because they look like nothing, but yet they have such a practical impact on your life. And for the purposes of today's video, I'm going to be using feelings and emotions interchangeably. So the first way that our feelings practically impact our lives I'm going to talk about today is that recognizing your emotions helps you take the actions that you want to take. We've all heard the phrase, you're acting emotional, don't act on emotions, and all that. That's talking about reactivity, reacting right away to something that you experience, something that someone says. So imagine your coworker says something rude, or that family member who knows exactly how to push your buttons, and you feel that emotion rise up and you react. You defend. You say something angry. Or say your spouse says something and they know how to push your buttons, or your teenager, they know exactly what to say to needle you. And so that you feel it and you feel it, and then it comes out of your mouth without thinking right away. That's reactivity, when there's no pause between stimulus and reaction. But before you speak, it started with that feeling. And so I like to think of that phrase, I say it, don't act on just your emotions, because your emotions are trying to communicate something to you. If you imagine in that moment, like a little kid is tugging on your pant leg and saying, hey, this is XYZ. You know, they share how they're feeling because they want to pull you aside to have a conversation. And so the messages that your feelings might be telling you in the moment is, I feel hurt. I feel small. What that person just said made me feel disrespected and insignificant. I don't like what that person just said. That angered me. What most people do in the heat of the moment, and when I say most people, I'm talking about myself here too. I've definitely done this before. In the heat of the moment, when you are feeling that anger and that frustration all up in here, if you're not sensitive to your emotions, you go straight to acting out and behaving and replying, reacting on the other person versus turning inward. Reactivity is like the water that flows through a hose that has holes in it. The water that spills out, it's not bad water. It's not wrong. It's not that it shouldn't be there. What it means is that the water spilled out and seeped out before it got all the way through into a useful place. The water belongs. It needs to go all the way through in order to be useful. But one way to nip it in the bud and interrupt that cycle is to say how you're feeling. Say right then to the other person, I feel hurt. I feel frustrated. If you're by yourself and let's say you got some mail that is not good news, say out loud, I feel scared right now. And what that does is it acts like a release valve to release some of the pressure, some of the emotion that is building up on the inside of you. There were times when I was so triggered in conversation with other people that I couldn't even think straight, let alone come up with any kind of a solution or be useful at all. But because I knew, I was aware of my sensations, and I knew, it's really loud on the inside here, Erna. Something's going on. Because I had that awareness, what I could say was, I want to have this conversation, but I need some time to sort through what I'm feeling, and we can come back together and talk about this. And I felt better immediately. And then I would go on my own and figure out what was my stuff, what was their stuff, and I could have a productive conversation. I was dating a man at the very beginning of my healing journey, and it was a tense conversation. I don't remember what it was about, but he asked me a question. And I remember saying to him, I'm having a lot of feelings right now, and I don't know what they are, but I will know by tomorrow. And I just felt so much better. It just cut through the tension. And I was able to do that. I was able to go on my own and, get curious and see what was going on and have a more productive conversation later. So I felt a lot, even though I didn't know what it was in the moment. But because I had the awareness, I was able to take care of myself. I was able to turn inward and have a productive response and then come back later and either solve it or make the best next step. So saying what you're feeling makes you much less likely to act on what you're feeling. But in order to do that, you have to have the sensitivity and the awareness of what it is that you're feeling. And that way you can give a voice to your emotions if you're talking to another person or just out loud to yourself, relieve some of that tension, release some of that pressure, and then you can come back with a solution that makes sense for your life. Another big way that emotions impact our practical lives is that they let us know what needs to be healed, what needs to be cleared, so that we can experience the life that we truly want. So when you're out and you see something, you see a car, you see a home, you see a relationship, and you're inspired, that's a feeling. Or you're repulsed and you're like, I don't think I want that. That's also a feeling. When you see someone on stage talking about something, you're like, oh, that could be me. You might feel inspiration and fear. Those are both feelings. Usually it's not just one flat emotion of just the happiness or the excitement. Usually, if you're not already experiencing it, it's accompanied by sadness, grief, or fear, more like a secondary emotion. And when you follow that, it lets you know, ooh, you have a limiting belief there. Ooh, you have some wounding there. You grew up believing this about yourself. Or when dealing with people, if someone rejects you, what does that bring up for you? Do you notice hurt that's big or small? Do you notice, if you bypass and ignore it and move on with your life quickly so that you don't have to deal with that hurt and get down in that uncomfortable feeling at all? Is that what you notice? The reason why I'm asking these questions is because if you can get curious about where these feelings come from and what they mean, they will tell you line by line. You'll get a nice, neat list of your traumas, your limiting beliefs, and your wounds. And half of healing is awareness. Awareness is not the whole thing. With manifesting, awareness is not the whole shebang. It's the first step. You have to then also move through with some healing and or manifestation tools. But if you don't know what you're aiming at, you can't shoot effectively. But if you're curious about those emotions, they will lead you straight to your own transformation and or manifestation. So, for example, imagine you get a bill in the mail that you don't know if you have the money to cover it. And you notice this huge fear come up. Well, if you're sensitive to your emotions, you might go inside and say, ooh, what is this? When did I last feel this? Do I know anyone else in my family who has felt this? Getting curious in that way, and you might discover that, you know what, my dad felt the exact same way. He was always worried about money. Oh, so this is ancestral. I got this from my dad. And I know that he grew up in poverty, so it was passed down. And all this intel, all this insight, because you got curious about a feeling. And if you sit with it a bit longer with some curiosity, what bubbles up might be, well, goodness, I watched everyone give their money away to family, and there wasn't enough for us because my parents were always taking care of other people. And so what's the point of getting, the kind of money I want if I'm not going to be able to hold on to it? Very specific. And what I can tell you without going into another hour of detail is the more specific you can understand your limiting beliefs, the quicker they clear. The heart, the emotions, they don't reveal themselves right away. It does take a few moments of being curious. And that's why I use the word allow and witness a lot. Because if you sit back and watch your emotions move through your body or your sensations move through your body, they'll start talking. And they'll say things to you that you have never heard before. And this is why I talk so much about, manifestation and feelings. They might not seem like they go together, but they do. They are deeply linked. Paying attention to your feelings will lead to manifesting. And what you've currently already manifested or what you're experiencing may come with some feelings because you might want to change it. So it comes to feelings and then it's back to manifesting. And it's this beautiful circle that starts with your own awareness. I've always been someone who could see and say the truth. And that was not always easy for people that I grew up around that watched me grow up. But I was terrified all the time of hurting people's feelings, of saying the wrong thing. And so I learned to tiptoe and just try to say it just right. And if I say it just right, people won't get mad and, all that delusion. Because I learned that I could say, hey, the sky is blue. And there would always be someone there to say, Ernie, you know what? It's not what you said. It's how you said it. And so I internalized that, like, okay, I'm going to try even harder to say it just right, say it so nice. And all I wanted was to be received. But I learned that, through healing, it doesn't matter how you say stuff. Sometimes someone's going to be offended and push you away. I felt the sting of that. Even after I learned a little tact, and I learned how to say my truth with some warmth and when to speak. And I learned, maybe it's not needed right now. Even after that, it still stung when people would reject me. Why? Why was that there? I was able to get curious on my healing journey and explore, how long have I been feeling like this? And I was able to backtrack and trace and pluck up that root. But I was only able to do that because of the pain and the hurt from rejection that I acknowledged, that I humbled myself and said, yeah, this is how I'm feeling. And it wasn't easy. I wasn't always the fastest learner, but I learned and I acknowledged this is what I'm feeling. And that awareness is what began my ability to uproot and to heal that wound. And now I fully recognize that I'm a truth teller and I lean into that. And I still use wisdom, but at the end of the day, I could tell someone how to find $1 million and someone could find offense in that. That's not my business. That's their world being triggered for their highest good. And I can still just do my job. And that's the power of noticing, of turning inward. You notice the sensation and the feeling. You meet that feeling with some curiosity, and then there's some healing. The third and final way that I'm sharing today about how feelings impact our practical, day-to-day lives is that recognizing your feelings is what allows you to feel good. And you know what? That's what we're here for joy, for pleasure, satisfaction, happiness. And it's not shallow or unspiritual to recognize that. There's a reason why human beings are pleasure-seeking, always looking to feel good and end our struggle and end our difficulty. Pain is a signal. It's a message. It has the purpose of letting us know we've wandered too far away from our happiness so we can seek it out again. And here's how that works. You use whatever feelings you're feeling in the moment to feel good. A favorite quote of mine, I wish I knew who originally said it. It goes, if you want to feel better, get better at feeling. So whatever you're currently experiencing, whatever your emotions or sensations are in the moment, if you can allow them without trying to fix or change them, if you can just be curious about them for a few seconds, they will release. And when they do, they're going to leave behind a little bit of wisdom to know what you need right now in the moment, what would serve you best. This is something that you develop in your private time. So that can look like taking 10 minutes a day to set aside and just notice your emotions, notice and name your emotions and your sensations. I share an example of this in my video, The Point of Your Feelings. It's at the end where I share this. And if you take time to build that muscle, develop your ability to notice, I call it your noticer. When you're out and about, without trying, you'll notice, ooh, I'm feeling something. Something's going on. And either, like I said earlier, you give a voice to it, you know what to heal, or you go to your private time and you go, when you have a moment and you just allow, oh, I feel some anxiety right here, top of my shoulder. Oh, yeah. Yep, there it is right there. Heat on the face. Yep, I see you there. It's really intense. My right hand, oof, I feel that pressure. Witnessing, allowing it to be there. No judgment, no trying to fix it, no trying to make it go away, just allowing. And that way, our emotions that are swirling on the inside have a way out. And so with those emotions now released from you, because you gave them space to wander, to swirl, to be, and they released, you're left with this spaciousness and confidence and peace that not only you get to feel grateful for because now you feel better, but the people around you notice as well. A lot of times emotions get stuck. We feel it, and either if we're not acting on it or yelling about it, it can get stuck in the body. And you hear about joint pain and autoimmune disorders in different ways that emotions get lodged into your physical body and cause disruption. So being able to feel your feelings, that allows you to not only feel better emotionally and clears up your thinking mentally, but it's also good for you physically. This is why I'm a big advocate of not pushing away those uncomfortable or those negative emotions. You have to lean into them and embrace them without becoming them. And it takes practice, but you'll be surprised how quickly you can pick it up. It takes leaning into them in order for them to let go of you. And then with those negative emotions, you've made peace with them and they're released. Life is easier. Life is so much easier taking steps and doing things that you want to do without the fear, without resistance, without strong-arming yourself out of your comfort zone. If you've dealt with that resistance and faced that fear and acknowledged it and felt it through, your comfort zone expands. And now taking that action that used to be so terrifying and scary now feels like part of your home, and you take the action then. And so witnessing your emotions without trying to change them, that's what allows them to pass. And then you feel better. That's the result. That's the goal. It's a simple goal, but it makes life so much sweeter. So our emotions, my emotions, your emotions, they dictate what we do, how we feel, and what we can create. All huge, all very, very practical, even though emotions are sold as something fleeting and unserious. I hope today's message has shown you just how serious and impactful and effectual they really are. This is the kind of work that I do with people, going into much more detail, of course. Work I've done with myself, for myself. So I'm not just theorizing here. So if you're curious, I invite you to check out that link and get more details. Otherwise, I would love to hear your thoughts, what inspirations, what experiences came to mind while listening to this. So if you feel comfortable, only if you feel comfortable, please share what you're thinking and what you're feeling. Even if you disagree, I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.